newsroom and powered by demerarawaves.com.
A very good morning to you. With the news at this time, I am Deanna Jordan. The news comes to you with the compliments of Eureka Medical Laboratories. To begin the news, here's a look at the leads. Assistant Police Commissioner Clifton Hicken has been appointed as Acting Police Commissioner, but the People's National Congress reform plans to challenge it in court. Livestock farmers in West Berbice are complaining bitterly about the theft of sheep and other animals. In regional news, St. Vincent and the Grenadines governing Unity Labour Party needs young blood, at least that's what Deputy Prime Minister thinks. For the international news, we'll bring to you the latest bulletin from the BBC World Service. The details of these and other stories will be coming up in just a moment.
A COVID-19 PCR test is now mandatory for many routine activities, including travel and return to work purposes. At Eureka, our trained and experienced staff will ensure confidentiality while your test is conducted in a professional and timely manner, which results in just 48 hours. So the next time you require an efficient and hassle-free PCR COVID-19 test, call 624-8378, 608-8378, or 623-7233 to schedule your appointment. You can also ask about our house call testing service.
And now the news in detail. Assistant Police Commissioner Clifton Hicken is now Acting Police Commissioner. The Office of the President late Monday afternoon said President Irfan Ali appointed Mr. Hicken to act in the office of the Commissioner of Police in the Guyana Police Force. Mr. Hicken says the transition began on Sunday, a day after his immediate predecessor, Mr. Nigel Hoppy, proceeded on pre-retirement leave. The new Acting Police Commissioner hopes to build trust in the police force.
No, that I'll continue to serve the nation with the structures that have been left. I'll build on the structures. We have a new strategic plan which will be rolled out, and I'll be working in conjunction with all the other stakeholders to ensure that we have a Guyana police force that is, one, transparent and can be trusted. And so we're going to work in collaboration with the Sensory and all the other stakeholders.
Acting Police Commissioner Clifton Hicken. And in related news, the People's National Congress Reform, PNCR, says it will be challenging the constitutionality of the appointment of Assistant Police Commissioner as Acting Police Commissioner. That party notes that the next most senior police officer, Deputy Police Commissioner Paul Williams, has been bypassed. Prior to his appointment as Acting Police Commissioner, he had been Acting Deputy Police Commissioner. But the PNCR states that to promote Mr. Hicken to the rank of Deputy Commissioner of Police or to have him act in the office is a blatant violation of the Constitution and will be challenged in the court of law. Acknowledging that there is no opposition leader or police service commission at the moment, the PNCR said the appointment of a police commissioner or deputy police commissioner is plainly unconstitutional. The PNCR, the major party in the opposition coalition, has taken steps for its leader, Aubrey Norton, to become a parliamentarian after March 31st, 2022, and eventually be voted in by the opposition parliamentarians as opposition leader. A number of service commissions, police commissioner, chancellor, and the Chief Justice can be appointed only after consultation between the president and the opposition leader. The PNCR is demanding that the government rescind Hicken's appointment and allow for a process of full transparency, legality, and meritocracy within the Guyana Police Force. Health Minister Dr. Frank Anthony says a new variant of the coronavirus in Western Europe can be easily transmitted. He says the new COVID Omicron variant is known as BA2.
Now what you're having is a new wave that is caused by a subvariant BA2. And BA2, the scientists have found that it's more transmissible. So we are having a more transmissible variant at a time when a lot of countries have relaxed measures, such as masking. And therefore, you're seeing a lot more people getting infected, and some of those persons are ending up in hospital.
The health minister says this new variant can easily affect several categories of persons.
So persons, elderly persons who would have, who are not vaccinated, would have a challenge, first of all. And those whose vaccine would have weaned after about a 6 months period, they too would have some challenges. Although what they're also noticing is that if you had a vaccine, then the severity of the infection is not as much. So that's a positive. And even getting long COVID is reduced if you are vaccinated. So there are many reasons why one should really get vaccinated.
He says since the relaxation of the COVID measures here in Guyana, fewer people have been turning up for testing or vaccines. Livestock farmers in Region 5 are complaining that police are doing little to investigate the theft of animals there. The issue surfaced on Sunday when President Irfan Ali launched the Black Belly Sheep Project at Onverwat, West Coast, Berbice.
The initiative that you have with the sheep is a great one, but there's a more greater problem in that area with the person who are stealing sheep. It's a problem that is plaguing the whole of Region 5. It's a major problem. Last week, the Imam lost 35 sheep, they left him with 5. He sell out the 5.
The farmer told the president in the presence of other farmers that the police do not investigate complaints of animal theft. Dr. Ali also joined the farmer in voicing concern to the divisional police commander, who was also there.
Here's what we'll do. We will have to develop a special group, like we have the community policing group, a special group among the farmers that will look at the anti-rustling group. So let us, where is the commander? Commander.
And Your Excellency, sometimes when you go to the police station, the police them to treat you like the criminal and use the and
you hear? You hear how the police treat them people? Can you identify any of the police?
No, I can't.
A number of other farmers endorsed the complaint about animal theft.
We are going to work with you. I'm going to ask the commander to meet with and agriculture to meet with all the farmers next week to work on creating a team to look at the anti-rustling. And it's a major issue you have here. Yeah, but you need to get the solution. You need to find the people. Don't tell me you can't find the people.
And when you go to, and plus when you go to them also, there's no one coming out and do any investigation to find out what sheep you lost or how many sheep you lost. There's no one coming out to do an investigation.
Because the police, them are gonna be sheep.
Thank you, sir.
A farmer complaining to the president about the theft of sheep and other animals in Region 5. Barbados is sending 1,000 black belly sheep to Guyana next month to produce mutton for export to Barbados and eventually other Caribbean islands. One of the 3 men held in connection with a $79 million Guyana dollars marijuana bust has pleaded guilty and has been jailed. The Customs Anti-Narcotics Unit says Messiah Durant was sentenced to 50 months imprisonment and fined more than 200 million Guyana dollars. Linden Magistrate Wonder Fortune, however, granted bail to granted bail of $2 million Guyana dollars each to 44-year-old Sean Lindy and his son 29-year-old Sean Lindy Jr. The bail was granted to the Lindys after they pleaded not guilty. Kanu says the men were arrested last Saturday in a house at the Veld Upper Berbice River. And now for the regional news. The Antigua and Barbuda government has stepped up its efforts to stave off efforts by the European Union (EU) to derail the controversial Citizenship by Investment Program (CBI). Prime Minister Gaston Browne says he has sent a letter to the EU on the issue. He says he has told the EU about the economic impact that they are about to inflict on Eastern Caribbean citizenship by investment programs and the impact on their economies. Last week, he called on the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, OECS, to provide a united front on the issue. He said that the letter would provide evidence that Antigua and Barbuda probably hold the most robust due diligence process before citizenship can be granted. Under the CBI, foreign investors are afforded citizenship of a country in return for making a significant investment in the socio-economic development of the particular country. Several Caribbean countries have instituted CBI programs. The United States has moved to decline visas to holders of passports obtained by the CBI, and the European Union has passed a law giving countries 3 years to phase out the program or face visa requirements for all its passport holders. And in St. Lucia, Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre announced a plan to help vulnerable St. Lucians cope with anticipated increases in the price of electricity due to hikes in the cost of fuel. Pierre, responsible for finance, told reporters that disadvantaged individuals, people who have no income, and those who are unemployed would benefit. He says the Social Security Fund will support the vulnerable according to their needs. Pierre said there would be a process through the St. Lucia Social Development Fund regarding accessing funds. The St. Lucia Electricity Services Limited announced in a release Friday that despite its fuel price hedging program and renewable energy efforts, the sharp hike in oil prices would increase the fuel surcharge for electricity bills. Prime Minister Pierre remarked that the answer to the problem includes less dependence on fossil fuels. The St. Vincent and the Grenadines Deputy Prime Minister, Montgomery Daniel, says the time has come for the ruling Unity Labour Party, ULP, to look towards younger leadership. He made the point in Parliament on Thursday as he commended the party on 21 years in office. The 66-year-old Daniel has been functioning as the party's de facto deputy leader after Sir Louis Sreka did not contest the 2020 general elections. The ULP had said that a convention would have been held within a year of the polls to elect a deputy leader, but no convention was held and none has been held for years. Daniel's comments came on a day that the party's political leader, Prime Minister Ralph Gonsalves, who turns 76 in August, missed Parliament because a terrible flu really mashed him up. Daniel, who has been a parliamentarian since 2001, said that after 21 years, he believes that he has made a great contribution. He said that historically, 21 years means a lot in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Daniel said that congratulations were always in order when, in 1998, Vincent Beach, the then opposition leader, told the ULP it was time for him to move on and to pass the mantle to political leader Gonsalves. And now for the international news, here's the latest bulletin from the BBC World Service.
Hello, I'm Moira Alderson with the BBC News. Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has urged Russia and Ukraine to end what he called the shared tragedy of the war as he opened their latest round of peace talks. He again called for a ceasefire, saying it was time that the talks yielded concrete results.
We believe that a just peace will not have any losers. It is not to the benefit of anyone for the conflict to be prolonged. Every person who dies, every building destroyed, every resource thrown into the air or buried in the ground, instead of being spent for prosperity, is a value that is taken away from our common future. It is up to the parties to stop this shared tragedy.
Delegates from both sides are meeting in Istanbul more than a month after Russia invaded Ukraine. But expectations of a breakthrough are low. Our correspondent Tom Bateman is there.
In the last hour or so, the two heads of the delegations have peeled off and had talks between themselves, two key advisors to Presidents Putin and Zelensky, before they roll out the wider talks with the delegations themselves. So these things always bring a glimmer, a flash of optimism, of hope, I suppose, and you feel that a bit when the delegations are both turning up and they're in the room together. There was applause for President Erdogan when he appealed for an agreement, but I think the chances of it in the next 48 hours here are extremely remote.
A rescue operation is underway in the southern Ukrainian city of Mykolaiv after a Russian attack on the offices of the regional administration. The authorities say 17 people have been freed from the rubble, but 11 others are still missing, most of them civilians. Danny Eberhard reports.
The strike, apparently by a cruise missile, has left a gaping hole through the 9-storey building. It destroyed the office of the regional governor, Vitaly Kim, but he wasn't there, having, he said, overslept. Miraculously, he added, most of the people in the building had escaped. Mykolaiv is one of a number of cities recently awarded hero status by President Zelensky. It blocks Russia's route from the occupied city of Kherson to the major Black Sea port of Odessa. Ukrainian troops in the area have repelled concerted attempts by Russia's military to move west, inflicting large losses in the process.
The head of the International Atomic Energy Agency is visiting Ukraine on a mission to ensure the safety of the country's nuclear plants. Rafael Grossi said urgent action was needed to prevent the danger of an accident. He'll hold talks with Ukrainian government officials before visiting one of the nuclear plants. The agency said it had drawn up detailed plans to assist with safety and security, including at the wrecked Chernobyl plant, which was taken by Russian forces early in the invasion. The IAEA plans to deploy experts, monitoring and emergency equipment to nuclear sites. BBC News. British police say they've issued an initial 20 fines over events hosted at government offices in London in breach of coronavirus restrictions. Officers have been investigating a dozen gatherings at Downing Street and the Cabinet Office, some attended by the Prime Minister, Boris Johnson. Media reports of alcohol-fuelled lockdown parties led to calls for Mr Johnson's resignation earlier this year. Here's our chief political correspondent, Adam Fleming.
Politically, this takes this story to another level because, OK, we had the public anger when the reports first surfaced and the pictures and the claims. Then we got the report into this affair by the senior civil servant Sue Gray, who could only come to kind of interim conclusions because the police asked her not to go into the gory details. And she said this demonstrated a failure of leadership and judgment. But the fact that the police have now confirmed that they believe laws were broken kind of ups the ante on the seriousness of this story, which was already pretty significant.
The security forces in Israel have arrested 12 Arab Israelis suspected of being linked to Islamic State after two recent deadly attacks by supporters of the jihadist group. The detentions took place in cities and towns in the north of the country, which is where men who killed two border police officers on Sunday lived. That attack and one in Beersheba last week, in which 4 Israelis were killed, have raised alarm in Israel over the threat posed by IS. Negotiations on a landmark international plan to protect the Earth's biodiversity are into their final day in Geneva. Key differences remain, including on how to finance the proposals, which could cost $200 billion a year by 2030. A key ambition is to turn 30% of the world's lands and seas into protected areas to reduce the current threat of extinction for over 1 million species. BBC News.
The news was brought to you with the compliments of Eureka Medical Laboratories.
Don't let the fear of contracting the coronavirus disease deter you from seeking the medical care you need. At Eureka Labs, we ensure the safety of our clients and staff with our rigid sanitization routine. This involves the use of ultraviolet lights to effectively rid the air and all surfaces of viruses and bacteria that may be present throughout the lab daily. The light works to rapidly inactivate microorganisms through a physical process that is invisible to human eye. So the next time you need a checkup, don't hesitate to give us a call on 225-7574 to schedule your appointment.
Here now is a recap of the leads. Assistant Police Commissioner Clifton Higgin has been appointed as Acting Police Commissioner, but the People's National Congress reform plans to challenge it in court. Livestock farmers in West Berbice are complaining bitterly about the theft of sheep and other animals. In regional news, St. Vincent and the Grenadines' governing Unity Labour Party needs young blood. At least that's what the Deputy Prime Minister thinks. And that's the end of the news.
This has been the news, compiled in the News Talk Radio newsroom. For ongoing updates, visit demerarawaves.com, and you can check facebook.com/demwaves and twitter.com/demwaves.